What's up, everybody? This is T coming to you for a special edition of T Watches a Scary Movie. I am on my way in right now to a screening of A Quiet Place Part 2. And if you're listening to the current episode, you're about to hear me talk about A Quiet Place Part 2 and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So enjoy the episode. I'm excited to talk to y'all about A Quiet Place Part 2 and get back to the movies. And welcome to a brand new audio-only episode of T Watches a Scary Movie. My name is T, and we're talking scary movies. I appreciate you tuning in. Keep in mind, if this is your first time listening, we have new episodes going up every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you want to get alerts for that, just because obviously we do them every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but if you want to actually get the alerts for when they've been uploaded and stuff like that, then you got to subscribe to the YouTube page. And that page is youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Yes, again, that is youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. If you get subscribed to the YouTube page, you'll get alerts for when videos are going up, and those include episodes as well as any other fun videos I decide to put up for y'all as well too. And I always love comments, so make sure you're commenting on the new episodes as you're watching them too, just because I like interacting with all of y'all. You're fun. I appreciate you listening, so I want to make sure I'm always getting to talk back and answer any kind of questions that y'all might have. Beyond that, though, also remember that we do watch parties weekly as well too. So usually after we're done reviewing a movie or two on the latest episode, we end up watching one of the movies that we talk about in our watch party right after. For example, tonight we are talking A Quiet Place Part 2 and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And our watch party tonight following the show is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. We're going to watch that new one together, which is so fun to watch like really, really new movies together, because usually we're watching something older. So super cool we're getting a chance to do that. Take a little sip of my Diet Dr. Pepper, or excuse me, my Dr. Pepper and cream soda, 0 sugar. It is so delicious. It is the best soda. There's that. But to find out about our watch parties, you got to go to the Facebook group, because that's where we have all of our watch parties and the links posted, as well as some great discussions on new horror movie news, horror TV news, anything like that. For example, today, they just dropped what will likely be the final Fear Street trilogy trailer. The Fear Street movies are coming to Netflix next month. It's looking so good. If anybody read Fear Street back in middle school, elementary school, R.L. Stine, it was like a more adult Goosebumps, basically. I'm amped for it. I'm excited to talk about those. We are definitely watching those together. But we have some great stuff coming up. We know we're watching The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It tonight. Next week, we are finally going to get my episode talking with my good friend Tyler of the Silver Screen Breakdown. We're going to be discussing Spiral, and then we're going to be watching Spiral actually in the watch party, and it's a two-parter. So next Wednesday, we're going to have part 1 of my discussion with Tyler in a very spoiler-filled discussion of Spiral, and then the very next day, so on June 17th, we'll have part 2 of that episode going up. But then after that, we're getting into summer, so we're going to have some Summer of Horror. So on the 23rd, we are talking Sleepaway Camp 2. We are talking Piranha 3D. We're talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. And then a week after that, we are doing I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. We're talking Sleepaway Camp 3. And then, oh man, I forget what our third film was in there. But I'll remember. We have some great stuff coming up for y'all. So you want to make sure you get to the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/T Scary Movie. Make sure to get subscribed to that, because that will let you know when we're doing watch parties and you can participate in our fun conversations. But no time to waste, folks. We're getting right into it here, talking some new horror. We have up first A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, had a lot of fun with that. Y'all saw the video there to open the episode. I know we're only audio right now, but I got a chance to see A Quiet Place Part 2 with a lot of you last week. It was so much fun. I don't know about all of you, but like growing up, the theater was so special. Like literally, it's still special even up to this day, but something about going back and seeing movies in high school every weekend with my good friends, Ben, I went and saw some with Carlos and everything, different girlfriends at the time, stuff like that as well too. Sorry, honey. But there's just such a nostalgia, such a warm feeling in my heart for going back and thinking about how much I enjoyed seeing movies like in high school and middle school and everything. And I won't lie, not being able to go to the theater for the last year has played a lot on my mind, because that is like a very special and a safe place for me. I love it so much. So getting back into a theater and getting to see so many, I've seen a few so far this year. It's been Raya and the Last Dragon, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Spiral, and now A Quiet Place Part 2. It's so special, can't be beat, and a movie like this absolutely needs to be seen in theaters as well. Now, I have to be careful not to spoil a lot about A Quiet Place Part 2, but A Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2, because both of these are obviously within the 10-year rule, but we get to start off A Quiet Place Part 2 getting some information on how this all started. If you remember, when I reviewed A Quiet Place, the first A Quiet Place just last week and everything, I talked about the fact that we weren't given a lot of information about everything that happened. We start that movie with the Abbott family. They're already days into, this alien menace on Earth that's killed a lot of people. They've learned how to adapt and survive at this point, and it's about them trying to figure out some stuff for one of their kids who's a little sick right now. We go through that movie and everything they're dealing with all these aliens, and we're left with a bit of hope, because at the end of the first movie, they actually find a way to actually hurt these aliens, which they didn't have any ways to do that through the majority of that first film. So we're left thinking, okay, well, maybe they're about to bring the fight to them, because that's how these movies work, okay? If you can't damage one of these like monsters or something like that, you usually figure it out eventually, and then it's like, okay, the sequel is all about taking the fight to them. But it would be weird for this movie to go that route, and it doesn't. And that's not really a spoiler, because we've all seen the trailers, and it's not like y'all have seen the trailer for A Quiet Place Part 2 and you've seen a big military presence, or, people out there that are hunting the aliens or anything like that. Like, no, like this is very much a world that has been decimated by these aliens, and people are just literally scrounging to survive. So I thought it was a very inspired choice to take the second movie and start it back at the beginning of this invasion on day 1. Because the first movie made the concept of days very important to us, saying, okay, day 400 and stuff like that, to let us know how much time has gone by. We get started on day 1. And on day 1, it definitely takes us out of it. And this, it takes us out with the first character it shows us, okay? So no spoilers, but we get to see, the entire Abbott family and what a normal day is like for them. And right off the jump, I do have to mention, I think it is amazing, because here's the thing. I'm not hearing impaired, obviously. I have the use of my ears, so I don't know what a life like that is like for people who are hearing impaired. But the first movie gives us the idea that maybe the family was communicating a lot by sign language due to the fact they can't really talk. And obviously that would make sense to learn sign language, because it would make it easier to communicate in a world where you can't be audible. You can't actually say things. But as we see the beginning of A Quiet Place Part 2, we find out that no, like this family, this is something they've already been doing, because Reagan, their daughter, played by Millicent Simmons, she is hearing impaired. And so I know it's stupid to say that, but it was very cool to see that, no, this isn't something new that they came up with. Like, this family has clearly been using sign language to communicate since she was born. And it's even more evidently made so because we are at Marcus, who is, we didn't know his name. Definitely did not seem like a Marcus. But we start at Marcus's baseball game, the older son of the Abbott family, and Marcus is talking back to Emily Blunt's character, and they're using sign language to talk about him being calm and just breathing and everything. And I thought that was really, really cool to see. I thought that made this family even more connected, even more. There's something more loving about it. The fact that clearly they all still talk to each other in a way that they would need to with Regan, even though she's not around. And, of course, we get hints that this alien invasion is about to start, and it does start right in the middle of this baseball game. And, man, love it, love it, love it, love it. It's only about 10 minutes or so, maybe 15, but I'd say about 10 minutes or so here. But those 10 minutes are gripping because our characters know nothing at all about these alien creatures. Again, when we see them in the first film, by the time we meet them, it's very clear they know a lot about them. They have a system worked out. They know how to be careful. They know how to keep themselves alive and everything like that. They don't know any of this at this moment. So seeing a lot of people around them die, a lot of people trying to defend themselves, a lot of people trying to get away, and just, again, they're relentlessly killed around this family. This family seems to be the only one able to make it through. It's very, very gripping. And what was kind of cool is that at the end of the movie, the family is left. They finally figure out a way to hurt these aliens, to actually do some damage to them, basically. And it's interesting that at the end of the movie, our mom, Evelyn Abbott, she's got that shotgun. The dad, Lee, had that in the first movie at times as well, too. And it's very much implied that shotgun came from an unfortunate police officer who was murdered at the start of this invasion. And just a kind of cool nod to go from the end of the movie, she's pumping the shotgun, and then we go to see this police officer who's pumping the shotgun gets killed, and then we cut right back to the end of the first movie to where now the family's like, all right, let's go, let's get the fuck out of here, basically. And I thought that was really, really cool to go back a little bit, get a little calmness, feel safe for a bit, and then know we're going right back into a world that's not safe at all. Now, from there, the film becomes a journey. The first movie was very much about these characters staying in one place. Like, look, there isn't any hope. John Krasinski's Lee is trying to find a way out of this. Like, he's trying to find a weakness for these creatures, trying to find a way to keep his family safe and just live in this new world that they have. And that is very much the place that we live in and inhabit in the first film. In part two, this is more about this family trying to find a way out of this now. That, hey, where we're at, it doesn't work anymore, okay? Like, we've had some issues. We got to go. We got to find something else that we can do because this is just not sustainable at this point. And they're given a reason to hope. They find out that there's a possibility that there might be others nearby that they might have other opportunities for. And they take it upon that. So we're very much taken away from the idea that this is going to be, all right, the Abbott family are now badasses. They're going to go hunt all these aliens down and save the world. That's not really what's happening here. They don't have those kind of resources. So this is really like a road movie almost, a road trip movie to where these characters are trying to get to another location to get to safety. And the film doesn't give us a lot of time to breathe. Like, this family is smart, but once they leave this culture, this cultivated environment that they've been living in, suddenly it's like, well, the world is a scary, scary place. Outside of these aliens being there, there are other things out there that can hurt you. And I don't mean other creatures. I don't mean other aliens. I mean just that there are people out there with not the best of intentions that can do some damage to everybody just as bad as these aliens can. And the Abbotts are lucky enough to stumble upon an old family friend that they hadn't seen before, since before everything had happened. Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy, 28 Days Later, and the Chris Nolan Batman movies, of that fame, Peaky Blinders. He's done a bunch of stuff. But they happen across Emmett, a friend of the family who the last time they saw them was the day all of this was going down. And it then becomes a story about Emmett having to pull himself out of the depths of despair that he's in, because one thing that we can understand, as was shown to us at the beginning of the original Quiet Place, is that there isn't mercy. This is not a kind world. These aliens are killing anything and everything that's out there. And Emmett has gone through a lot of loss, just as much as the Abbotts have as well. But he's implored by Evelyn to go on a journey that could ultimately save the world. And, you don't want to give it big stakes because this movie isn't so much about big stakes. We are still very much focused around this group of characters, the Abbott family and now Emmett, basically. And that's who we're focused on. But you can feel it as we progress through this film that there are bigger stakes here. That, Emmett and the Abbotts contain what could very well be the key to survival for everybody. And the only person who believes in it, unwavering, is Regan. Regan's the only one who believes that this is a way to get their lives back, to live, to survive. And it's so heartwarming. It's like there's so much emotion in this film watching as each of the characters does have to come to the idea that, hey, there is a possibility to get our lives back. Not the lives we had before, but there's a possibility to where we're not living in fear. That we can bring the fight to these monsters, and we don't need all these soldiers and stuff like that to do it. And John Krasinski, back in directing and writing capacity here, puts together some very, very tense situations. We split our group up. Our group is split up into different segments there, to where it's some of the kids are put together at times, some of the adults are put together at times, some of the adults are put with the kids over the course of this movie. And what I thought was so much fun about A Quiet Place is that when Krasinski brings out these very tense and thrilling scenes in there, multiple things are happening. It's not just one group is being affected by it. Whenever shit is happening to one group, it's happening to other groups as well. Like, it's almost like a domino effect that by this group getting affected or being hunted by aliens or humans or whatever, all these other groups are having the same issues at that time. And there's a recurring theme with not a bunker. A bunker is not the right word for it. What am I thinking of that now? Oh God, now I really, it's like they're in a steel, I guess it is a bunker, but there's like a water tank or like a furnace or something like that, to where they can lock it airtight, basically, to where no sound's coming through, and that becomes like a recurring location throughout this film. We don't dwell that much on the first movie. Matter of fact, it's kind of interesting because this film very much shows that the Abbott family is changed from the events of the first film, and that a lot of these characters are learning more and having to become tougher. They're having to become smarter. They're having to do a lot more than what was expected of them in the previous film because of things that happen in that previous film. And everybody goes through an evolution. Every single character here, from every member of the Abbott family, with the exception of their baby, the newborn baby, and the baby's the only one that doesn't go through the change. Like, even Emmett goes through a change throughout this film, and it's amazing watching each of these characters progress from what they once were into who they're becoming. And if the first film was very much about Emily Blunt's Evelyn, I would say she was the main character of that film, honestly. I really would say that. Where now in the sequel, it seems that the focus has been shifted over to Regan. Regan is definitely the one who now everything is kind of based around instead. And I like that progression because she's really the driving force of this film. She's the one that has the hope that, we can make this okay. And it's so interesting because she's the character that can't hear. And we spend numerous times throughout this film getting things from her perspective. The sound cuts out and we don't hear anything. We can hear heartbeats because that's what she can hear and that's what she can feel, loud vibrations and stuff. But the sound editing in this is so amazing because we get to experience events going on from Reagan's perspective and from everybody else's perspective. And that can be incredibly scary, especially when she's having a few of these encounters with the aliens as well. There's not a lot extra I can add into this without getting into very heavy spoiler territory. But we learn a lot more about these creatures as well, about not necessarily other weaknesses of them, but things they can't do, things that will negatively affect them, and that's a driving force in the second half of this film. It is tense. It is tense. There is not a lot of breathing room. And even when Krasinski does give us some breathing room towards the end of the film, he very quickly reminds us, oh, yeah, like you can have a little bit of time to breathe, but you're not getting much. We're going back to where everybody is going to be scared for their fucking lives. And he does an amazing job with this. This was a great follow-up. And I hate saying it, but it makes the first film almost inconsequential to where it's kind of redundant, because the beginning of A Quiet Place Part 2 very much makes the first movie useless. Outside of the fate of one character in that movie, or I guess two characters in that movie, it makes the first film kind of useless. And I say that still saying that the first film is absolutely incredible. We just watched it the other week. It's definitely worth a watch just to have it there. But that is the one downside to this film, is that it does make it to where you can get by without seeing it. Either way, check it out in theaters. It is worth the fun. That is A Quiet Place Part 2, folks. All right, so with A Quiet Place Part 2 finished, which again, I have to implore, if you have a chance to see this in theaters, watch it in theaters, y'all. It is like already, I will push to see movies in theaters as much as humanly possible if you can. I get it if you're not there yet, if you're not feeling safe about it or anything. Makes total sense. This is one that's worth seeing in theaters. Make sure to do that. Now, we move on to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So, the Conjuring universe has been around for quite some time at this point, okay? If you think about it, because you have to think the first Conjuring movie was done in 2013. This series has gone on for 7 years, and as far as we're aware, is not going to be stopping anytime soon. Now, it's interesting. The Conjuring series, for the most part, the main series is based on the exploits of Ed and oh God, what's her name? Liz? Ed and Lorraine. Why did I think Liz? I don't know why. Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were paranormal investigators, authors. He was a clergyman a little bit here, basically investigating supernatural experiences. And we've seen over the course of these films, them basically deal with a lot of demonic possession. That is their bag, baby. All right. First Conjuring, they had the family at the house that was that basically had the possession going on. Then they have the second one over in England where they had the possession going on there. And the third one does go a bit with the possession route as well. But here's the thing. Prior to the release of this movie, I have been saying, because I don't know if anybody else follows this series as intently as I had, but there had been talks that there was going to be based around a werewolf case, that it was going to be based around the idea of the Warrens investigating like an actual case of lycanthropy, I think is what it's called. And that didn't happen for whatever reason. We got the movie that came out. But I had said to myself, man, I think it would be cool as hell if what we got to do was see the Warrens fight a bunch of monsters, okay? Like, sure, these are based around real cases, and whether you believe in that or not, that's all based on you, whether you believe in demonic possession and everything. But if you don't, or even if you do, I think we can all agree things like werewolves, vampires, zombies, stuff like that, that's not real. It's not real at all, no matter how much that you want that shit to be. It's just not real. And I had said to myself, it would be so cool to watch the Warrens just going around like the fucking Scooby-Doo gang and basically just solve a bunch of mysteries surrounding monsters like that. Like, let's stop pulling from their real case files, because here's the thing. In 2021, as much as I love the Conjuring series, I don't know how much I actually believe in the Warrens and their real work. I really don't. And this film did not do a lot to help me with that. If anything, this is probably the biggest offender of not believing a word of the shit they've said. And that's not me being mean, folks. This is a real thing to where they have been... their work has been derided and criticized for decades. They've been claimed to be con artists and shysters and all that kind of stuff there. And I get it. I absolutely get it with the line of work that they're in. It's easy to kind of get that. But this film doesn't help with that idea either. But I digress. I thought it'd be cool to watch the Warrens go around fighting all these monsters and shit that aren't real cases, because You have to admit, if you watch those first two Conjuring movies, watching the Warrens face off against these demonic entities has been cool as hell. So I want to see Ed slay a vampire. I want to see fucking Patrick Wilson, like, literally stake a goddamn vampire. I think that would be cool as hell. And I say that watching this film and knowing how much they really went that route. And it's not really a spoiler here, but the movie begins as all the other Conjuring movies do. It starts off with them working a case, okay? And every single film, that's how it's been starting, is that each one, they're going to start off working a case. And this is no different. They're starting off trying to help out a family to where the boy has been possessed by a demon. The young son of this family has been possessed. And they do some nods to The Exorcist. Like, I'm talking full-on nod to The Exorcist there, with the priest stepping outside of the taxi, the outside of the home. There's the fog in the background. It's got the briefcase and the hat. Like, 100% it's an Exorcist, like, homage there. But this exorcism goes wrong. We're used to the Warrens having success. In the first two movies, everything really is successful, okay? Like, they never do anything where it's like, okay, it should have worked. We're in the clear. No, it's usually like, look, this is only a temporary measure. You're about to have some more issues down the line until we're done. But that's not what happens in this one here. The first part of this film, we're left off with a sense of failure from the Warrens. That this is the first time that their plans didn't go the way that they were really supposed to. And even though things end and we're left thinking, okay, well, maybe things are done, we quickly discover that's not the case. And this film then switches very much from being the traditional horror film into something completely different. Now, I say that to be clear, I think the Conjuring series is one of the better horror series we've had in the past 20 years. With that being said, though, that's reliant upon the fact that they do some really good jump scares and they have some really good horror elements in all of their films. Even the ones I don't necessarily enjoy, like the Annabelle series, which I do love. Annabelle Comes Home, because that's basically the Conjuring 2.5. That's a great film. The Nun, the Curse of La Llorona, which I guess they're now saying is not officially a spinoff. It is a spinoff. Let's not fuck around there. But it's all dependent upon the horror in these series. That's why you're seeing them, okay? The spinoffs you're watching because they're like those early 2000 horror films to where you know you're just there for the jump scares. You watch the main series because they're actually scary, and I do mean that. Go back and watch the first two Conjuring films. They're really good because they're actually scary. This is not, and that is going to be a tough pill for a lot of you to swallow. Let me state, I enjoyed this movie. I really, really did, but it is not a horror film. It basically becomes, again, like an episode of Scooby-Doo. It's like an episode even of Law and Order, to where it's the Warrens investigating this legal case that they're now like knee deep in. That one of the victims that they tried to help out, unfortunately, due to some supernatural involvement, was not able to get the help that they needed and has ended up in jail. And the Warrens are now are fighting against the clock to save this person and figure out what's going on and stop this menace that's terrorizing not only this victim, but the Warrens themselves. Now, the true story part of this deals with the Warrens trying to prove that a murder was committed via demonic possession. This is a real life thing that happened. Now, you can look the case up and find out very quickly how this all ended, and you can take a pretty wild guess. Like, it's not, I take that back. It's not a wild guess. You can guess pretty easily about how all of this is going to turn out, because you have to think about how our court system actually works, and unfortunately, that gives a pretty big spoiler about where this is going. But the thing is that by them investigating this case, and it's not really the way they've been able to do it before, it really does become almost like a legal procedural show, like a Law and Order, like a Chicago Fire or whatever. Like all those shows, they're out there like that because they're working alongside the authorities through much of this film. There's more involvement with the authorities than there ever has been before. And not only that, but we're getting the natural progression of age. We've been watching these characters across like the 3 films, or 4 if you count Annabelle Comes Home. We've been watching them over the course of about 25 years, honestly. So these characters are obviously older at this point, and they're going to deal with the things that come with being older as well, too. That they don't move around so well, that they need a little bit more help than usual, that maybe they're a little bit more trusting of certain people than they really should be. And that's really what the film is focusing on, is that where they, in those previous films, they had a lot more sway, they had a lot more power, they were taken a lot more seriously. We're getting to a modern day to where the stuff that they're involved in doesn't have much in the way of credit. It doesn't have much in the way of proof with it, so people have issues taking them at their word. There are some jump scares in this film, and I have to be careful of the way that I spoil that. There are a few there, but the overall sense of dread and despair and just horror that was here in our previous movies is lacking from this one. It's very clear that they changed gears with the story of this film. And I bring it back to the idea that I said I wanted the Warrens just investigating random supernatural occurrences. I think that might be the route, because then you can make these films, just as exciting as the previous ones, to where it's easy to watch them go around, do exorcisms, hunt vampires, fight werewolves, all that kind of stuff there. We can only see them fight off demons and stuff so many times before it's like, okay, we know the way this is ultimately going to end up. And again, I will say that the Warrens actually deal with a different kind of enemy in this film. And that was very interesting to see. And it's part of why I still enjoyed the movie, was that the movie really does become the idea that they have to fight something other than what they're used to. And I loved seeing the way they played that effect up. But it doesn't help that their supporting cast really isn't that great. Obviously, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they are fantastic in the roles. They are absolutely fantastic in the roles. We get some other returning cast members in this one as well too. Keep in mind that we have Drew, their assistant, comes back. Drew is played by Shannon Cook, and then they also bring back Father Gordon. I think it's either Father Gordon or Father Newman. I forget the guy's name, but it's a previous priest they've used in other films as well, too. So they bring back one of the previous priests that have worked with them before as well. But it's just the supporting cast is not strong. There are some very clear red herrings in the movie as well that you're going to be like, okay, this person is absolutely involved in what's going on. But there's not a lot to this film that's going to put it on the same level as the other films. I definitely do believe this is going to end up being folks' least favorite film in the entire Conjuring series. And it's not hard to agree with that statement. It's not a bad movie. I didn't like the Annabelle movies, but I do understand the folks that really do enjoy those, honestly, especially the second one and, of course, the third one. But I can definitely see how this film, The Devil Made Me Do It, is going to be considered the bottom of the Conjuring series, just because it's not a horror movie. It's really, really not a horror movie, and that's considering the subject matter that it goes over as well too. It's like a less serious Ghostbusters almost is the way to look at it, And I can't talk much about it because a lot of it is really going to give away very important plot details to it. But it didn't dissuade me. It didn't put me off of wanting to see further movies. I would still be very much interested in following the Warren family for more adventures. And what these main movies have been doing is that they've been following their bigger cases. So there's actually still one more big case for the Warrens to actually cover as well. And so, I'm very interested to see if that's going to be the next sequel, honestly, because the stuff with Annabelle was a big one. The Amityville Horror was a big one, and that was they did that at the beginning of The Conjuring 2. The Enfield Poltergeist, that was the big story of The Conjuring 2. But this one here with Arnie Johnson, that was for this film, The Devil Made Me Do It. They still have a few other big stories they can go through and do, and I do think we'll at least get one more of those stories being adapted. But I don't know. We're at a point to where they might need to stop doing the true story stuff and just go into more a fictionalized version so people can enjoy it more. Who knows? Tell me what y'all think. I'm excited to watch this one with you either way, though. So get over to the Facebook page. The link is up to watch The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. We're going to get started with that here in just a little bit. Folks, that's my time, though. I appreciate you tuning in. Again, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And make sure to get subscribed to the Facebook group so you can join our watch parties and all of our fun discussions. That's going to be facebook.com/group/T Scary Movie. Folks, check out some of our older episodes. We got some great stuff in there. And make sure you're tuning in for the ones we got coming up. We got Spiral coming in next week. We're going to watch that together. But I'm T. We've been talking scary movies. Y'all stay scared.